this school board meeting at 10 to 7. We have our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mike, you want to do it? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you in the audience, when I reconvened back to open session, I reconvened it both here and also in Frisco, Texas. We have Board President Erin Lamont is with us by telephone tonight. So you might hear her occasionally. And if you have a hard time hearing, let me know and I will adjust the microphone to get it closer so you can hear her comments.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yes.
I wasn't talking to you. All right, so report of board action taken in closed session. I have one item that I put somewhere. The Palos Verdes Peninsula Unified School District's Board of Education voted in closed session to deny the tort claim filed against the district dated September 25th, 2014 by the following roll call vote. Yes, Member Vandenbos, Member Lamont, Member Sharp, and Member Lucky. Abstain or absent was Tony Coladas. Dr. Coladas is not here tonight. The name of the claimant is being withheld pursuant to Government Code Section 54961. Next order of business is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We do this by roll call vote. Member Lamont,
Yes.
Member Lucky,
Yes.
Member Sharp,
Yes.
Member Vandenbos, yes. Okay. Report of the superintendent. Oh, excuse me, I have board president announcements. A little out of order, sorry. Well, I have a neat one tonight. We have our third student school board member here tonight. Dominique Russo, a senior at Rancho Del Mar, can be best described with many adjectives, such as intelligent, poised, friendly, and sincere. Maybe the best term for this young woman, though, is a positive presence. Dominique is incapable of walking into a room without lifting the mood, especially because she never stops smiling. I could use a little of that. She serves as an inspiration to the entire Rancho Del Mar student body and staff. She's academically very focused and driven. She's earned all A's and B's at Rancho Del Mar, thriving particularly in visual and performing arts and mathematics. She's working hard to gain acceptance into a four-year university, and her first choice is Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. The Board of Education, Cabinet, and attendees were proud to hear that Dominique is looking to bring her incredible skills and personality into the world of education, as she plans on eventually earning a master's degree and becoming a school counselor. This is the exact type of individual we need to guide and benefit children in the district. Where is Dominique anyway? Sorry, I kept looking at Rosemary and saying, where's Dominique sitting next to Rosemary? Dominique is also very active outside school walls. She's close to her two brothers, and they enjoy going to the family home in Lake Havasu. I like going to Lake Havasu, too. For the first 3 summers, she worked at the Seahorse Riding Club. She helps children learn about horses and creates a great riding experience for them in pony camp. Dominique's been riding horses for the last 9 years and truly enjoys the activity. Since she loves working with kids, pony camp is a perfect job for her, and of course, we can't forget one of Dominique's main passions in life, taking her awesome Jeep Wrangler off-roading. That wouldn't be near Havasu, would it? Because I'll stay off the roads if that's the case.
Oh, no, it is.
All right. We're extremely excited to have Dominique represent Rancho Del Mar at the school board meetings. We're more than confident she'll excel in this role. Welcome to Dominique, and thank you for volunteering and becoming such a fine addition to our school community.
Thank you.
Normally, when we have the new school board member, they sit in the audience and they stand up and everyone waves to them. But we threw Dominique into the breach tonight because we had a member that couldn't make when the other school board members couldn't make it. So she gets to give a report. So we'll see also tonight how fast she thinks on her feet. So welcome.
Thank you.
Now we can go to the report of the superintendent.
Okay, thank you. Quick report tonight. I just want to give a thank you to the staff for the hard work on the Common Core State Standards website, which was launched earlier today. It includes a parent resource site, which I think is going to serve as an excellent tool for parents. We're also working on the concept of campfire discussions, which is a term used for regional discussions, site-based discussions for parents and students to learn more about what's happening in classrooms at their school site from the people who are teaching their children. So we're pretty excited about the process. We believe it's clarified, it matches the expectations of the community, and very proud of the work that has been done. Thank you.
All right. Well, now we go to school board, student school board members. Do you want to go? We did do approval of minutes. Oh, I missed minutes. Well, I'm really whiffing tonight. All right, so before we go to report of the student school board members, we need to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of October 9th, 2014.
I move approval.
I'll second it, since, okay. So, Member Lamont,
Aye.
Member Lucky,
Aye.
Member Vandenboss, aye. Member Sharp. Abstain. All right, and Dr. Colados is absent. Okay. So, you are more than welcome to come and speak to it. Joan Davidson. You maybe, is the green light on?
Want me to check?
Well, you got all sorts of other things happening, Trent.
Look what I can do.
Okay, do you want to come up to the desk then? Sorry about that. Plan C is to yell loudly. So let's hope Plan B
As a
works.
teacher, I can do that. Okay, thank you. Now you can hear me. So on item L1, I spoke specifically about the sufficiency of instructional materials. I spoke to it about the Williams Act. I remember that very well.
So you want that for the minutes
I
of the
want
last
to just
meeting?
be on the record to please add that. And item 2, and maybe you can clarify this for me, but Mr. Vandenboss and Mr. Colados were talking about the Microsoft, it was item L4, the Microsoft Windows licensure, and there was specific discussion about the cloud and the privacy issues about that. And Mr. Vandenboss asked, I remember, asked specifically Trent for further direction on that, but here it's stating that by board consensus, it was agreed that student privacy options related to the Microsoft Student Advantage program will be included in the frequently asked questions posted on the district website. To be fair to parents, I think you need to send out and give the same information or any direction that the board gets on privacy issues to the parents about Microsoft 365, because they are now logging in through the district, it's going to their home, and I don't know where else in the world the information's going. So to help them, I think that would be really a great idea if you could advise them whatever you're told as a person besides a school board member that protects you, they need the same protection. And I don't know what Trent advised you, but whatever that advice is should go out to the parents.
So noted.
So I don't remember this verbiage, so if you
Well,
can check
I mean, I think that
check it
actually
out.
describes what we talked about, but, I mean, I'm so used to minutes from the city where every sentence is recorded, and our minutes are done quite differently, as you know.
No, I remember specifically you asked for Trent to get back with you with advice, so,
I promise if I get advice, I will share it.
all right, to help
I mean,
protect the kids.
I will do it in my board update.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we will move on to,
Are we fixed at the podium, Trent?
okay.
Thank you.
Now we're going to go on to items not on the agenda. Oh, student board members, I lost my computer on top of everything else. I think the Trent bug got me. Literally. Okay, I'm down to this.
Sometimes you just need the paper backup, you know?
No, I've got it. It's okay. I'll go with this. Okay, so Michael, do you want to provide the format that you have successfully used for Dominique to watch? Or would you like to go first and freeform it?
Doesn't matter. I can go.
All right, why don't you freeform it?
Okay. Rancho Del Mar students have taken college tours to Los Angeles Harbor College, El Camino College, Long Beach City College, and Cal State Dominguez Hills. The League of Women Voters, PTA Council legislation representatives, and Peninsula Chamber of Commerce presented voters information and registration assembly on October 8th for all seniors, and the students who were 18 were able to register to vote. Then on October 15th, Greg Allen and a young adult panel presented a substance abuse prevention assembly for all the Rancho students. The next day, on October 16th, a group of Rancho students and 2 teachers attended an all-day leadership development day workshop sponsored by the CADA in Bellflower Unified School District, along with high school students from many other high schools. On October 17th, 6 Rancho students, along with students from Palos Verdes High School and Peninsula High School, community members and Peninsula Rotary Club attended a candidates forum sponsored by the Palos Verdes Peninsula Chamber of Commerce. The forum was held at the PV Golf Club. And currently, Rancho Del Mar is in process of ASB elections. And the first quarter ended Friday, October 24th, and the grades are out, being prepared to send home. And then last Sunday, several families participated in the Skechers Walk supported by the Peninsula Education Foundation. And this past Monday, a mock election sponsored by the PTA Council was held in government classes. And then tomorrow, October 31st, is the Rancho Del Mar Student Faculty Halloween Barbecue and Field Day. If any board members or district administrators is free between 10:50 and noon, stop by for a burger. And the flyers are being passed out right now, sent around.
Okay, thank you. Now,
you.
I have to say that either you're incredibly well prepared,
Thank
or
you.
the little birdie that told me you weren't planning to talk may have given me some false information over there, Miss Principal Humphrey.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for the invitation.
Oh, no problem.
Michael.
That was better than mine, and I had time to prepare. So a lot has been happening at Peninsula since I was here about 2 weeks ago, but the biggest thing is we had homecoming for the week of the 20th through the 24th. Our theme this year was board games, and it was put on by our ASB. This year, ASB was able to get the old Steinmart room in the Peninsula Center to start setting up and painting and just getting ready for the week. And our setup weekend, we were there, must have been like over 20 hours just setting up and decorating the school and getting it ready for all the students to come in on Monday and just be shocked by what they see. And this year, the theme was really unique because in the past, it has kind of been directed at one part of the student body. And this year, it was really cool how we made interactive games like a giant life-size Connect 4 and chess and checkers. And it was just really cool and nice to see as an ASB the whole student body coming together and just participating in this. At the end of the week, we had our homecoming carnival, and this year it was really cool because we incorporated not just the food but the carnival games. By each class had a game, so the freshmen had a game, the sophomores, juniors, seniors. The seniors had dunk tank, and they were dunking. Should I turn this off? They were dunking all the teachers. Some of the teachers offered extra credit for it, and it was just really fun. If a teacher gave you a bad grade, you could go dunk them. And then that led to the homecoming game, and it was just really cool to see the entire, our Peninsula student section, the zoo, just completely decked out and cheering for the team, even though we lost. It was really, it was a fun time for all of us. And then we had the dance, and this was the biggest dance we've actually had so far. SOS, the entertainment system we use that does all our dances, they actually had to come for the first time ever to set up a day early. And this dance was really fun, one of the best ones we've had. Some other things that have happened is our Austrian foreign exchange students will be coming back again this year from February 19th to March 5th. That was a really cool opportunity last year just to have the Austrians in class with us and just for some students to be able to keep them in their house. On Friday 17th, Link Crew hosted a movie night for transfer students. It was very successful. I think this was really cool because most people just associate Link Crew with the freshmen, but the fact that transfer students who sometimes can just kind of almost be forgotten about to be remembered by Link Crew and to have an event specifically for them, I think they really appreciated that. On October 27th, we had our mock elections this year, and not only does this kind of give us some information on how the people in Palos Verdes are voting, but it also teaches the students civics and reminds them how to vote when they have the opportunity to. A lot of the seniors are already 18, so they actually can go out and vote. And it reminds the parents to vote on November 4th because a lot of parents, they either forget or they're too busy, and it's just a way to encourage them to vote. Some other mentions are last weekend, our service learning leadership class cooked meals for families at the Ronald McDonald Home in Long Beach. We had our Skechers walk last weekend, and that was really cool because it was more student run this year by a Peninsula student named Ben Myers, and he really made it a big deal and pushed for it and got a lot of participants in it. And yep, that's about it.
Thank you. Now we'll go to public communications on non-agenda items. And I have a whole series of cards. And if anybody else wants to speak on a non-agenda item, please bring your card up now. By the time we're done with the first speaker, I'm going to cut off any additional cards, and I'll take everybody's card and give it to before the end of the first speaker. So bring your cards to Jana. So our first speaker is Dr. Camille Feldman. As a reminder to the audience, these are remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person, and oral communications are a total of 15, but we waive that. The board cannot engage in any public discussion during this portion of the agenda due to the Ralph M. Brown Act. So literally, we can't respond. Dr. Feldman.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. I am here. I wasn't planning on coming and speaking tonight, but I got a letter about 2.5 hours ago from Dr. Joanne Culverhouse at PV Peninsula Unified School District. And in this letter, it talks about the Common Core state standards being higher expectations, more rigorous, deepening knowledge, elevating practices, preparing each and every student for success in college, career, life, today's global economy, the CIA team, ensuring access and opportunity for all students and making it a world-class district. I don't know her, but I'm sure she is well-meaning and a very nice person. And what I am here today to state is that no matter how much you change the wording or how many letters you send out with the Common Core state standards, I have done an awful lot of research, as well as other members in my family, on Common Core, and no matter how much you change it and how many more students you allow into the accelerated Common Core standards, I'm going to go with the expert, who is Dr. James Milgram, who was a professor for, I believe, 40 years at Stanford, was asked to be on the Common Core State Standards Committee and could not sign off on it. He couldn't sign off on it, and we did get an email, my husband and I, this past summer, stating specifically why. In it, and this email was sent to all of the board members this summer, he says that Algebra 2 course sketched out in Common Core is very incomplete. It does nothing with basic conic sections, absolutely essential preparation for any STEM areas. And even at Stanford, when the students don't learn these topics before calculus, and then not even in calculus, they can't do many of the crucial things that are the bread and butter of engineers and many others. Bottom line, it's Common Core math has crucially missing materials. This gentleman who refused to sign off will be coming to this area to speak. I encourage every single one of you in our educational PV Peninsula Unified School District to come and hear him. Hear the other side of the debate. I know that all of you believe that this is the way to go. I think you have good intentions, but I need to make sure that you're invited to hear this gentleman and what he states. He wrote a white paper stating that it was very, at this time, I'm going to quote him, "We can conclude only that a gigantic fraud has been perpetuated on this country, in particular the parents in this country, by those developing, promoted, or endorsing Common Core standards. We have no illusions that the college readiness level in English language arts will be any more demanding than Common Core's readiness level in mathematics." So bottom line, A pig is a pig is a pig is a pig. It doesn't matter what you call it, whether there's CIA who deems it okay. If our kids can't get into the top schools, and I think all of those kids that were in the STEM classes here a few weeks ago, they're counting on getting in some of those best universities. So I encourage you to come and hear this gentleman speak on Sunday, the 16th of November. Thank you.
Anna, do you have any additional cards? Okay. Kathy Santa Rosa.
Good evening. I'm here as a teacher in the school district as well as the president of the Teachers Union. We are in desperate need of substitutes in our district. We've had this problem last year. I've spoke to this problem before. Our substitutes before the crisis were getting $105 a day. Then we cut them back to $100 a day when things went bad about 4 years ago. And now we are having major difficulty getting subs to come to our district to work because Redondo Beach pays $130 a day. We don't have many people that live up here on the hill to substitute in classrooms for us. So we have to get people that live off the hill to come up the hill to work for us. They're not coming up for $100 a day. They're just not. Just the other day, I think it was maybe Monday or Friday, one of the days shortly ago, we were short 9 substitutes in the district. Now, you're getting people to cover on their preps, we're getting principals to cover, we're getting any warm body in the room here, which is not beneficial to our students because there's plans left that have to be followed, and when the sub comes in, they follow the plans. Well, when you got somebody else coming in throughout the day, that doesn't work very well. I encourage the board, along with the school district, to raise the rate of substitute teaching. If not exceeding Redondo, a little bit over Redondo, so we can attract these just out of school, fresh, eager, energetic teachers. It is such a great thing to actually be able to have someone come in to substitute, and then all of a sudden you're looking at them going, wow, we'd love to bring you on board. You don't have to go by a resume. You've actually seen them in action teaching, and it is a fabulous idea to let them come in and see our schools, which ones they like, what curriculums they like, what ideas of curricular activities happen, and it's just a great opportunity if we can get some new, fresh, we've got some great subs, but really, we need more. And I think our biggest problem is we just don't pay them enough. Thank you.
We don't pay the ant killer enough either. I mean, there's an infestation up here. Joan Davidson.
Okay, the mic works. Couple of things. Privacy. At the last meeting, I spoke a little while ago regarding the minutes. The board had this discussion about Microsoft 365 and the issues related to the cloud where all this information is stored. Just to let you know that the board voted on this about 8 p.m. The email went out to all the parents to link in and click and sign in at 5 p.m. So my question to you is, under whose authority did the email go out to every parent in this district when you didn't vote on it till 8 p.m.? The math program in this district. Last night on NBC News, Brian Williams, who's the national news broadcaster, had a whole discussion about Common Core math, how parents are going crazy across the nation. So it seems like this discussion is happening everywhere across the nation except in this boardroom. And I think this needs to become a discussion in this boardroom with the teachers, the parents, and the board members. Repeated attempts to get a copy of the 5th grade math test given last year has been stonewalled, and Dr. Austin was very kind today, had a discussion with me about this. I'm hoping I'm going to get a copy of it. While ours hasn't bbeen put out there, Capistrano's can be found online. So you can see what they gave last year, and they the test results, and they have study guides for all the kids. Only 1% of the students passed the 5th grade math exam last May, which is a mystery to me. Common sense makes one person ask, why would a district create a punitive policy that is weeding out students that are 10 years old? If a student doesn't enter the accelerated math track at 10 years old, they can't possibly get to calculus by 12th grade. Parents have asked for waivers were told that they couldn't get in. I'm told today that some more kids have gotten in, and that's great. But we want everyone to have that opportunity. If they don't, will calculus still exist in public schools in the future? We found out when I was on the board in the 90s that there was no feeder program for music in the middle school, and it was a marching band of about 30 kids at Peninsula High. If you don't let those kids into the program, they won't be physics, they won't be calculus, and they won't be higher math. We want those kids to go to the select colleges. We want that math. It's ironic that Erin's husband, Gary Lamont, is out there giving scholarships to kids in the STEM programs to Raytheon when we're shutting down the programs here. We have to relook at this, and we have to make sure the kids get the opportunities to do this. On October 20th, I drove down to Orange County Office of Education, where they had a huge audience to discuss Common Core. They were panelists pro and con. Ms. Lindholm, who's on the board, asked Dr. Thomas, this is Glenn Thomas, who's on the UC Davis Board of Advisors, how does Common Core help STEM? And he said there's no evidence that it does. Not one opponent or proponent could come up with anything that Common Core does to help our students. And we have all these kids here who want to be in the STEM. It doesn't help. He also went on to say that we're a local control state. You guys have the opportunity to do anything you want in this district. The question is, if you have the legal right, why aren't you doing it? If Common Core is here, we want to be here. We want to give the kids the most opportunities and advantages of all. Hugh Hewitt, who I don't listen to on the radio, made a great comment to one of the board members. He said, did you ever watch The Sopranos? Well, this is like Tony Soprano visiting small businesses, telling them how to manage their stores. The federal government's telling us how to manage education, and we know better. Here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Barry Udis.
Parents, you received a PVPUSD Common Core update from the district. This is another one of their spin jobs. They basically took the old box of Common Core and rebranded and repackaged it, kind of like calling Co-Superintendent Williams a CEO. By the way, there's your money for the subs. I've never received a coherent answer to why the district is, I get that time back, right? I've never received a coherent answer to why the district is replacing our high-performing, high-results system with the untested, failing and flailing lower Common Core standards. The district gives us answers for changing on their new shiny website. PVPUSD has a history of exceptional student achievement, dynamic teaching, and unparalleled community support. The district is committed to maintaining our reputation for producing exemplary students with the skills necessary to compete in an evolving and competitive environment. Creating a culture of continuous improvement in teaching and learning is vital to the future success of any organization. The rigorous expectations set forth from the new Common Core state standards have provided us an opportunity to critically evaluate and calibrate our curriculum and instructional strategies. This will result in continued success for our students and in meeting the high expectations of the community. This educrat speak is senseless and does not answer the question because they do not want to tell you the truth. Common Core is a dumbed-down version of what we have now. Thousands of college-ready students have graduated from PV schools and gone on to the nation's top schools. Our math curriculum has been based on California's 1997 gold standard, which has been the best in the U.S. The new math pathways dreamed up by Director of Curriculum Joan Romano does not prepare your children for top schools. Your children will be competing with students from non-Common Core private schools, students from non-Common Core states, and international students. Do you want to find this out when it is too late? My son graduated from Peninsula High as a STEM student last year. He was accepted at San Diego State University as an engineering major. San Diego State received 78,000 applications. only 8,000 were accepted. With odds like these and being taught Common Core, your children will not have a chance to compete. Please don't take the word of the district. Their livelihood depends on Common Core funding. Common Core is funding all the hiring in this beautiful building. Without Common Core, they would have to be fiscally responsible. You have the opportunity to listen and question the people who were asked to validate Common Core but refused to. I invite you to Unveiling Common Core 2.0, the unanswered questions, on November 16th at the Peninsula Community Church on Crest Ridge. The panel features the dream team of education. Camille mentioned Dr. Milgram. There's also Sandra Stotsky, who's a doctor at Harvard. She was on the Common Core Validation Committee, and Zev Warman, who is U.S. Department of Education supervisor. You must come and get the answers, not from the district.
Thank you. Desiree Myers.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just a couple clarifications, prior speakers. The 8th grade test that was given was one which would allow the kids to actually take Algebra 1 in 8th grade. 100% of our kids were put into Algebra 1 in 8th grade last year. Now they have to take a test. And this is this test that is not being made public, and this is why it's controversial. In the presentation that's coming up, Barry mentioned, you're going to hear from people that actually created this 1997 standards, and you're going to hear specifically what was gutted out of Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, which is the majority of content which will prevent your kids from STEM and select colleges, and very specifically, calculus. On another subject, last year, the school district conducted illegal psychological profiling of our children using Pearson BES2 tests without parental knowledge or permission. The results of this data is now in Pearson's database, who, according to their own privacy policies, share all this individually identifiable data with their suppliers. Obviously, such information has marketing value to later be sold to employers and colleges and background checks. The district has yet to tell the parents of this debacle, or that Pearson now owns this data, dictates its usage, retention, and access. If anybody would like further proof of what occurred, including the exchange of attorney letters admitting that they did this, Barry Udis' site, Restore PV Education, gives you all the contact information to request it. Last year, PVUSD started Smarter Balance tests. According to CA Law 484, these are psychometric tests, including a collection of feelings, beliefs, and personality traits. They load these into federal government databases. You as a parent have every right to opt your children out of these tests, and should. The teachers are not even allowed to stand behind the students and observe the kind of questions that are being asked of them. Again, if you want to know how to opt out of this, you can go to Restore PV Education Facebook site. If, upon submission of an opt-out form, an administrator tells your child that they need to report to the office and speak to the principal without the parent, this is an act of intimidation and is illegal. Again, talk to Barry, contact Barry about the information that's available to you to take action on this. I have submitted records requests for my daughter asking for the results of these Pearson psychological tests. I have notified this board in person in the last meeting. My husband and I have met in person with Don Austin and informed him about this. I'm here to tell you, as of yet, I do not have these results. This breaks 2 significant laws. At the last meeting, we heard about a horrible event involving children humiliated and the lack of board support for the action of another child, which was mean and badly behaved with disturbing actions. The Pearson test protocols define that these tests are given to children who are defined at risk. Yet, they were given to large groups of children across 5 different schools. The district needs to identify children at risk and show the leadership to protect our kids and respect the privacy of our children and respect the wishes and rights of the families. We are not looking for a catastrophe so you can justify further invasive testing of our children. Additional thing that they're now having them enter data for children under 13 is a dojo application where they will rate each other online, and this will go into public databases.
Okay, Ms. Myers,
this is Facebook on steroids.
Thank you. Lauren Trainati, I apologize if I got that wrong.
She had requested to go towards the end on this topic, if that's possible.
I have several people on this topic that all wanted to go at the end, so.
I'll go.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm Lauren.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks to all of you for coming. On Friday, September 12th, my world turned upside down. A fellow Miralest mother called me to tell me that another 6th grade student at Miralest had posted sexually explicit postings on Instagram about my daughter. Since my daughter doesn't have a cell phone, nor Instagram, nor do I, my friend texted me copies of what he had posted. His postings were graphic, sexual, violent, and disgusting. I would really appreciate, while I'm speaking, if you would at least pay attention. This is very important. He used a photograph of my daughter for his profile picture that he had taken of her at the Miralest pool party. This photo of my daughter was not permitted whatsoever. My daughter didn't even know he was taking her picture. She is looking away. What he posted frightened me so much that I decided to keep my daughter home from school. This boy made up another Instagram account with my daughter's name, pretending to have a sexual relationship with another boy at Miralest. I'm not even going to read the quotes because every single one of you sitting in this boardroom has seen all of the postings, you've seen all of the quotes, you have seen everything. Everything. So why are we even here? This happened 6 weeks ago. For 6 weeks, I have been begging and pleading with district administrators to revisit a horrible, horrible situation. This is so wrong. Our children deserve more. My daughter deserves more. We as parents deserve more. What are the district's true policies on cyberbullying, sexual harassment, and violent threats? I read the safe school policies, and they are extremely vague. Although our state and country are toughening their cyberbullying laws, apparently our district feels as though they can make their own rules. It's time for healing right now in this community, and we could have been there already, but instead, we're still dealing with this. We're still dealing with this. In light of everything that's happened, I cannot believe how I have been made to feel. And the reason my daughter is not frightened is because my daughter doesn't own a cell phone, and my daughter has not seen the postings. That's why she's not frightened, and this is why her mother is frightened.
Thank you. Thank you. Monica Brannon.
My name is Monica Brannon. I was a 6th grader. Well, 5 kids, and I've been here before with that whole Title I thing, and you might remember me. Where do I begin? Unfortunately, I disagree with you. It's not time for healing. It's time for action. Action. Healing is later. What is it going to take? This individual no longer became a child when he posted and typed out these disturbing messages and words. Unless he's Quentin Tarantino or Wes Craven, great, go to USC Film School, but not at this age. So being the fact he has a 2-day suspension, we're hearing about this 6 weeks later, this child has hissed at my kid. My son, he hisses at him. That's not appropriate. This individual needs help. He does not to be pushed aside to another school, regardless of any district. He needs to be homeschooled. He needs to be treated. What is it going to take? I know all of you have children. What would you do? My biggest fear is tomorrow he could show up dressed up in a bunny costume as he had said in his Instagram, and go at it being bitter at Maryland West. Or who knows, he could go to his next school. The child, individual, needs to be treated. There needs to be certain steps taken care of. The district needs to make sure this child is being taken care of. I'm not quite sure. I cannot judge or say anything about the parents, not quite sure. Perhaps this is a one-time thing. He took things too far, but guess what? He did take it too far. So therefore, he needs to be looked at, monitored. Therefore, he should not attend one public school, I don't care if it's Compton, until he gets cleared by psychiatric care and a bunch of other things to say, okay, he is fine for that. Not only that, he should show remorse. I don't know if he has or hasn't, but do you know what's crazy for me? After this whole email thing got circulated, he was still at school. He tried to speak to my son. My son said, and I told him, stay away from him, be polite, but stay away. Not only did him, but all of the kids, no man, we can't talk to you. What do you think that's gonna do to him? This little elastic band, he could snap at any moment. Possibly not, we don't know. But we're not at an age where in this United States of America, where there's shootings all the time, let alone stabbings. What did the principal say there? Well, we weren't equipped for knives, we're ready for guns. No, we should be saying we are equipped. We are equipped to handle anything for any child that is showing a red flag. I do not care. I don't want to hear hormones. I don't want to hear this or that or anything. But the thing is, you know what? Stop protecting the red flags. Protect everybody else. We pay property taxes. We pay high mortgages to live in this community, to go to this beautiful PVUSD school district that is so envied. Guess what? If you guys don't do it, we're going to work even harder to go to private schools, and then guess what you're going to be stuck with? Busting schools.
Thank
then
you.
you're going to be dealing with that more.
Thank you. Sandy Valeri.
Hello, my name is Sandy Valeri. I have 3 children in the district. I did bring this issue up to you at the last meeting, and I also sent you out an email that you had an issue brewing. I kind of think I was serving as like a canary in the mine, letting you know that you were running out of air on the subject. I was hoping that with some warning you might get out in front of it and be proactive instead of reactionary on this particular subject. I did not lead and create this group that you see here, but I certainly support it. Actually, I'd support anything that would get a group like this to come to every single board meeting in the future. Please keep coming. I really don't want to go into the details of the particular issue that brought us here, but what I do think we need to discuss more of is the actions, or rather the lack of actions, that the district and the administration took on this case. Either the district policies and procedures were not followed, which some people are of that opinion. I really am not an expert. Or the policies and procedures are so broad and so vague that you could actually take one of these container tankers that we see going up and down the channel and drive them right through them, in which case they are vague. They are certainly meaningless in that case. It's probably some of both. I really am not entirely sure, but I think they need to be completely gone through. Certainly, in this case, as we have heard from the mother, there was virtually no consideration shown for the victim or for her family throughout all these considerations. Throughout the entire proceeding, the victim came last. In fact, the principal didn't even think there really was a victim, thought it was maybe a victimless prank, so to speak, that nobody was really harmed. I know he was very much concerned, and I put him up for this, that he was very much concerned about the welfare of the boy involved, and that the boy be properly, if you will, re-educated and given the opportunity to rehabilitate himself. I mean, I don't know what, since there are privacy issues, and I am not aware of what what was offered to the child. I shouldn't know, and I don't know. But I appreciated that as an educator, I don't want to see this boy skewered and not have a future. He's 12. He shouldn't be not have an opportunity for rehabilitation. He shouldn't be put, I don't believe, on a sexual database predator and never allowed to have a chance at life again. However, the number one consideration must be for victims, must be for the victims and for those who are potential victims. And they were completely ignored, completely and utterly ignored. And what you see over and over again, if you read the newspaper, and I hope you do, is that children are committing suicide because they are being bullied. Cases just like this. Girls have hung themselves over situations like this. Boys, in cases like this, get guns and come back to school and shoot up their classmates. Are we going to wait until that happens in this district before you decide to take action? Please, God, no, don't let one of our children go to that extent before you decide to take some action and revise these policies.
Thank you. David Potter.
I guess I was going to speak a little bit more about the individual act, but it seems like that's been addressed tonight. And I think the volume of people that are here today speaks loudly about what the parents think and what's going on, and the situation needs to be addressed. And I think in the future, the Palos Verdes School District has to have guidelines to address this situation and take action immediately. It's just, there's not a place for it. It's unacceptable, totally unacceptable. And I know all the parents here, they choose Palos Verdes Unified School District because of the education, the location, the security for the kids, and also the sheltered environment. And when you have a situation like this, it's totally lost. There's no shelter. I have a daughter who's 16 that goes to PBI who has no idea what this kid's talking about. That's insane for a 12-year-old. So I encourage you guys to look at the guidelines and the rules and address these situations immediately in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Olson.
I think it was Mark Twain that said, "In the beginning of a change, the patriot is a scarce man, and brave, and hated, and scorned. When his cause succeeds, the timid then join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot." And as the father of 4 children in the school district, I just wanted to thank the parents and the teachers, people with students at Miralest and people without, that refused to be silenced 6 weeks ago, refused to be silenced tonight, and made it possible that we could all be heard on this very important issue. So thank you for being brave and making that possible, because that's not an easy battle. I wish we lived in a world where 11, 12, and 13-year-olds didn't know what Instagram and Twitter was. I wish we lived in a world where 11, 12, and 13-year-old eyes had never seen blood-covered bunnies, or knew what sexual intercourse was, or how to describe graphic violence in verse or in speech. I wish that we lived in that world where none of us had to be here tonight and we could be home with our own kids. But that's not the world we live in today in 2014. And so here we are. Here we all are, trying to figure out what to do next. For me, I think we start with the common ground, the commonality that everyone in this room shares, and that's we want this school district to remain one of the finest in the country at giving our kids a quality education. The other thing we all share is we want that to happen in the safest environment possible. And as horrible as it's been for everyone, I think it's a wake-up call for the third point that we can all agree on. This district, our district that we all love and want to see succeed, is woefully unprepared to handle this type of situation. And the reason I think it is, I don't know if any of you saw the sunset on the way in. Look at where we live. We live in this idyllic community. It's almost a fairy tale. I grew up in Buffalo. I mean, the ocean's right there. The sunset's right there. Our kids have every opportunity in the world, and we get insulated from where we are today. But in today's world, these issues have to be addressed, and addressed immediately. And what we saw as parents on the Hill was a lack of leadership, a lack of response. And I think of, Common Core everywhere. We got Common Core good. That's definitely
It's
not
okay,
3
you
minutes,
can
by
continue.
the way. Common Core everywhere. We train to do everything. The district needs to train its administration, its faculty, its staff, its students, and its parents how to deal with the situation. And in closing, I'll leave you with this. I always look for a moment, what best symbolizes an event. And when this occurred and the parents came forward to say, this isn't right, this violates everything, but more importantly, it makes me scared. They were almost belittled, and the comment was cotillion, and cotillion's the moment I choose to share with the board. Cotillion is a privilege. If you have too short a dress, you go home. If you don't have good enough grades, you cannot do cotillion. But if you post these things, there was a big uproar. The principal wanted to make sure this young man could go to cotillion. And for me, that's the moment to show how far disconnected we were with how we responded. Even the most basic privilege could not be taken away for this very serious act. So I encourage the district to get professionals, train the principals, train the teachers, train us parents how we can do a better job, train the students to let them know that this will not be tolerated. But we have to put the time, energy, and effort into being prepared so when this happens next time, we don't have such a horrible mishandling of the situation.
Thank you. So I had called for the rest of the cards, I did have one speaker that gave a card just recently, and I've already taken all the comments. So next time, I guess. All right. We go to discussion action items, L1.
Okay. This is the board resolution that to approve the purchase of Adobe Enterprise Term software. Basically, a quick summary is that many of our classes, especially at the secondary level, use the Adobe software, things like Photoshop, Creative Suite, Lightroom, a series of applications for digital production, yearbook, photography, and what we're...
Trent, you want to wait a second.
Right. I couldn't remember which one it was. What was it? It's a presentation off. Oh, LCD off? Okay.
Cards on one, just on two. That's what I was looking for. That's good. Okay, Trent.
Okay, so the Adobe software license is, rather than, what we've done in the past is we've purchased individual licenses for classrooms, for schools, and now Adobe has provided a licensing program which is similar to a subscription service, What this allows us to do is to have unlimited use of the software in all of our secondary classes and also versions of the software at our elementary schools. So the formula is based on the number of employees a school district has. And so what this allows us to do is to purchase the software. It's a 3-year term, and it allows us to have unlimited licensing for our computers and digital media programs at all of our schools. And it also enables us to have all the updates, all the downloads, and be able to easier manage the software for these programs. The resolution has been reviewed by our legal counsel, and what this resolution does is it authorizes us to use the agreement with the SEDPA contract as the purchasing vehicle to get the licenses from Adobe.
Does anybody have any questions?
I just had a question, Trent. I read your report. It's very good. It sounds like we're going to save a lot of money by doing this. And we've been doing this individually, per person or per school, or I don't know how we
Right.
per person, I guess. So I guess my question is, not everyone's been using Adobe then. Is that correct?
Well, what we've used it for is primarily in the yearbook courses, digital photography, video production, animation, and so it's been in specific classrooms or courses. The advantage of this is we can now extend that out to both all students, any place on campus, if it's another lab or classroom, and also for staff. So they'll be able to take advantage of it. They don't have to go to a specific location, and we can install it on every device on campus. So we'll be able to expand the offerings,
Okay.
and also at our elementary schools.
And the only way to be able to expand it to everyone would be to do this.
Yes, that's correct. It's a new licensing program that Adobe has offered, rather than us having to buy, for example, just 30 copies or 50 copies or however many for each individual lab. This way we have unlimited and all the updates.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we adopt resolution number 14-2014/15, approving the purchase of Adobe Enterprise term software license pursuant to the California Educational Technology Professionals Association contract with Adobe Systems Incorporated.
And I'll second that motion.
So we have to do a roll call. Board President Lamont?
Yes.
Member Lucky?
Yes.
Member Sharp, or?
Yes?
And Vandenbos says yes also. And Dr. Colados is absent. Okay. The next item is L2, and we have 2 speakers. Would the speakers prefer to go first or after the report? Okay. Joan Davidson.
Hi, I was a little bit confused about the way this item was written. It stated that it's an appointment process for provisional PVPUSD member of the Board of Education, including date for candidate interviews. The reason I don't understand it is if Aaron Lamont is leaving, shouldn't the discussion rather be, are we going to have an election or are we going to have an appointment?
Well, I'll give you the answer to that. It will be
Okay.
yes. That's what the discussion will be.
Okay, I wish that's what it was titled, because it sounds...
We will have a very long, thorough, open discussion in front of all of you in a couple of minutes.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Thanks.
Barry Hildebrand.
Good evening, and thanks for a very lively board meeting. My name is Barry.
It must remind you of the old days. It must remind you of the old days when you were on the board, remember?
That's right, yeah. There've been some. The gentleman who was sitting here with the yellow shirt elucidated all of the evils that the district has seen in the last few months, and everything but Ebola, I think, he listed. So my context is that to consider appointment of a trustee to replace Aaron Lamani is about 11 and a half short of a dozen. I think it's a repudiation of the concept of representative democratic Republican government where the people select their representatives, not for people who have been elected by something less than a unanimous vote when they were elected to the board. There's virtually no connection between the four of you and the people since, as I mentioned, none of you were elected unanimously. As an aside, I would like to warn Aaron that to be very careful of voting in absentee because there's 2 elected officials cooling off right now in the jail cells as I speak. And I would hate to see that happen to her. So let's do not deviate and get into a hand-me-down government which deprives the people of a vote. Do not select a representative to replace Aaron Lamont. Have it go to a vote. I don't care what it costs. You've already wasted more money than an election would cost in having a second superintendent and all of the preparations that have gone into Common Core installation in the district. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy Valeri.
Hello. I also like the idea of voting as opposed to selecting. I was just wondering, because as you said, how is the way it was written, it sounds like the decision had already been made, like you hadn't just made the decision yet. I know it costs money. I know that. But otherwise, how do you prevent something? I'm thinking cronyism is the word that came to my mind. I don't know if that exactly defines it right. But when you're up there and you select who's going to serve on the board with you, where do you get your candidates from? Who selects the candidates? How many are there for you to choose from? How do you avoid the pitfalls of what I'm going to call groupthink? And I'm not thinking that it's nepotism. I'm not thinking that you're out there purposely trying to do something evil. I'm not thinking that. But it's very easy to fall into something where you just select people that think like yourself, somebody that's going to kind of get along. And there's so much good to come from getting a diversity of opinions. And if you select someone yourselves, it is so much more likely for you to get somebody who is going to think kind of like you think. And then how do you know that you're going to get that diversity of opinions, that you're going to get the alternate ideas that maybe you need? Maybe you need that set of eyes that's going to look at it and says, hey, Joe, did you realize that everybody who's going to take algebra, not taking algebra in 8th grade, is automatically getting sent to remedial math? Anyone look at this chart before they published it? You know, people on the outside looking in. If you don't have somebody else who isn't already tied in, I don't care where they come from, somebody in physics, somebody in aerospace, somebody different to come inside and maybe bring in a fresh viewpoint. I'm just suggesting that if you pick them yourself, you could be missing a lot. I don't think it's something you would do deliberately. I truly, and I've said this before, I truly appreciate that you guys are honest to God public servants. I know you don't get paid for your labors. I know you do it because you love this community, and I appreciate your service. I really do. So like I said, I don't think you're going to deliberately do nepotism. It's not that. But I think you would miss branching out and getting a wider variety of viewpoints.
Thank you. Okay. So I guess at this point, Don, you want to take the lead?
I can start. First, I would like to address the item itself. It's an unorthodox item, and given the history of the district, this is a process that is not common because there have not been vacancies that have occurred during terms in the past. So, all the item itself was written with extensive consultation with the Los Angeles County Office of Education and our own attorneys. It will call for a series of questions to be asked, although the first question that we will address tonight is the discussion about potential between a special election or a provisional appointment. If the board takes action for a special election, that will end our discussion. So that would be a single item night. If it goes in the direction of a provisional appointment, then there are a series of other action items that will also occur under this topic. So we have potential to have one vote under this item. We have potential to have multiple votes depending on the sequence of events. So at this point, we'd like to open the discussion. Larry, I'll turn this back over to you for topic.
So the first question is the primary question. We have two options. Well, and I guess a little bit more additional background. The letter was submitted on what day, Don? To be effective with the county?
The dated letter for the resignation is October 15th, but the timeline, the 60-day window, is started on the day of receipt from LA County Office of Ed, which is October 20th. So our 60-day window closes on December 19th.
So that's the 60-day window to appoint if we go that route, or there's no 60-day window as far as a special election. That just is then to the deadline going with the county and how their election cycle runs and so on.
Yes, we could proceed with 4 board members if we choose to go with an election.
Okay, and do we have any sense of, I know we had at one point a letter, do we have any sense of what the time frame would that be if we chose that path?
The best information we have at this point is that it would be, potentially we could do something in June.
Okay. And then we have we had information of an estimated cost of a standalone election of $455,000. Maybe you could comment on that.
Yeah, I'd like to explain that a little bit. It is not a precise number, and let me explain this. We have a written estimate of $455,000, but as it was explained to me, at the end, you're billed for your election. So it is just that. It is an estimate that depends on other variables. Other people can tag onto this election. People that we may anticipate to tag on could drop off. But I've asked multiple times if the written estimate is close enough to be used for decision-making purposes, and in every case, that answer is yes.
And I recall from budget discussions before, when we've had elections, we end up getting the bill after the election is completed, and we really don't know what the cost will be until we've been billed for it. We've had elections that were as low as $250,000, where they were part of a large election. There was a lot of people, a lot of different measures on the ballot, and the money was separated around by a lot of jurisdictions. And then we've had elections where we've been billed almost $500,000. So the 455 is an estimate, but it's an estimate only for discussion purposes, and we're looking at probably a June election.
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions, or before we open up comments or discussion?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment, and I would really like to just apologize to the public for the way the item was presented, because it does look like the board has already made a decision to go ahead and appoint someone. We haven't had that discussion. That's going to happen here tonight. But again, it's a two-step process. First, you decide whether you're going to have an election, and if you're going to have an election. If you're going to have an election, then you don't have to do the appointment thing, and it just should have been clear in the agenda item as stated, and I don't set the agenda, and I didn't have anything to do with it, but certainly if it had come to me, I would have, I don't care who wrote it, I would have rewritten it to make it clear. So.
Okay, do you have any comments on the substance of the?
Mary, would you ask the board members and staff to speak a little bit closer into the microphone? I'm having a hard time understanding.
Sorry, Erin. Do I have any, no, I think you've done a fine explanation of the process.
Okay, and Malcolm, or?
Yeah, well, I am cost sensitive. I do care what it costs. I remember in the time where we were going out for the parcel tax measure V, and we had made a decision that we were going to have a special election in June of whatever year that was. I believe it was 2009. It was 2009. And at that time, the election consultancy that we were using, that we've used a number of times, the Tramotola Company, came to us at a special meeting saying he had just gotten the report from the county registrars what the cost of the election was going to be, and it was going to be close to $600,000. We had to make a turnaround decision in an appropriate amount of time to call another special election a little more than 24 hours after that, to say, well, we can't have an election for this community won't tolerate that. And that's when we had the mail-in ballot in 2009 that passed Measure V. So having been part of that campaign, having been on the board at that time, I realized that the cost of an election is something that does matter to this community. The other thing that needs to be pointed out is the timing of this. If indeed this were to be a June election, that candidate, that person, would have to turn around and then run again in November. We're talking 2015. So the special election would be June of 2015. That person would then, they usually open up registration for November election. It's usually like the second Monday in July. So this person would maybe be in office 1 month, would then have to decide whether that 1 month of board experience would sway him or her one way or the other to then file for election in the November 2015 regular election. That just doesn't sit well with me, that someone would have to make that kind of decision in that kind of time frame. So that's what I just wanted to bring out, what that election calendar in 2015 would look like if indeed a special election were held.
And I'd like to tag on to what Malcolm just said, because the election is quite expensive, and we are only talking about filling the last 11 months of Aaron Lamont's current term of office. So the person who is appointed, if they're appointed to this job, will serve for a total of 11 months. And during that period of time, again, the door will open in July, and that person can decide whether or not they want to run for the same office, or they may decide they've had enough already and, step aside. That's their choice. But we're only talking about an 11-month appointment. So I think the board works better with 5 people. I think it's important that you have an uneven number so that, you don't end up with these 2-2 votes, because that can happen, and then you don't go anywhere. I just think it's the right way to do it is to go ahead and do an appointment for the 11 months that are left on Aaron Lamont's term of office.
I happen to agree with a lot of what Sandy said, actually. I mean, I think it's a very valid concern that people tend to, I mean, if you look at human nature, people tend to group together by shared interests, shared ethnicity, shared whatever, and you tend to flock to people that you like or get along with. And so I think that's a very valid concern. But I have a hard time, I mean, I know we've taken a lot of criticism for a lot of different things that the community, some members of the community feel we wasted money on. I have a very hard time committing us to spending an additional up to $500,000, whatever the number may be, for someone who's elected to serve, if we go that route, for 5 months, and then has to turn around and run again if they so choose or not. And I mean, I also agree with Mr. Hildebrand said about I'd much prefer having a vote over having a selection. And if we're in the position where this was something where it's a 2-year term, or there's some significant amount of time that this person would be serving, then I wouldn't think twice about spending the money, because I wouldn't think it's a waste of money. But for 5 months, I can't justify it. All I can say is that I will be one of the people, if we go down that route of selecting somebody, I'm going to keep those words that Ms. Valeri said in the forefront of not trying to pick somebody that may be a friend or maybe somebody I think I'm going to get along with. I've been on the board for 7 years, or I'll be finishing my 7th year. I came on a board that had very divergent views, and we all got along. We had strong different views about a lot of things. I'm going to be stepping down from the board in a year, so there's going to be an election for, even if we appoint somebody, there'll be election for 2 spots, and there's going to be 1 available regardless of what, if we go the appointment route, the appointment person does. So there's going to be opportunities for people to run, and I don't think spending a large amount of money for 5 months makes sense to me. So that's kind of where I'm coming out on it. Aaron, did you want to add anything?
Well, I would just echo that. I mean, I really feel strongly that we need to figure out a way to mitigate, the circumstances that we find ourselves in, and certainly it's not one that I was planning on. So I would really like to try to mitigate any costs to the district and make it as easy as possible. Just again, given the unexpected nature of this. So that's really probably, to me, the most important thing to do.
Okay, so we've basically talked about the threshold question. Is there anybody else in the community that we have any other cards on this subject? Okay. All right, so I think at this point we need to see if we're on the same page or not by calling the first question as to whether we want to go for a special election or the appointment process.
I'll try to phrase it. I move that we select the appointment process to have the provisional PVPUSD member of the Board of Education fill the seat vacated by President Aaron Lamont effective December 12th, 2014.
And I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, roll call. Mrs. Lucky. Going to Mr. Sharp and Mrs. Lucky there.
I vote for the provisional appointment.
Okay, so it's aye.
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Aaron?
I would prefer to abstain on this process. I just feel like since I am, not going to be part of the decision-making process, that I'd rather go ahead and abstain on this vote.
Okay, so just so we're clear, Mrs. Lamont does have the right to vote on any of these issues. Maybe you can clarify a little bit for us.
We clarified again today. Ms. Lamont can vote on any of these issues, can sit, if an interview process takes place, can sit and listen and participate. She may not vote if it goes the appointment route. So for the actual selection, if it goes to an appointment process, she may not have a vote at that point.
Okay. So we basically, I think we've now called the question, and we want to go down the route of a provisional appointment. So, Don, could you lead us a little bit through the discussion of that?
Yeah, at this point, the next piece that would make sense would be the selection of a date for the appointment. We did, again, a pretty extensive review, even as late as this morning, just clarifying, making sure we're on the same page, going back and forth between not only LA County Office of Education, the LA County Office of Education legal counsel, our own legal counsel. We are all in agreement on the points that I'm going to go through at this point. First, we have possible options. An appointment should take place, must take place, on or before December 19th. Okay, that's point number one. Possible options would be our regularly scheduled meeting on December 11th, or a special board meeting on or before December 19th. I asked the question if an appointment could be made during a special board meeting. That answer is yes. Okay. We will not have time to go through a process that would get us in a position to be ready for our November meeting. That's why we're looking at December. And those are the key points.
Okay. So I'm going to start the discussion on this one because I have strong feelings, if that's all right. I very strongly feel that if we're going to do this route, and we said we are, that we need to do it at a regularly scheduled televised board meeting. Special board meetings serve a lot of really good purposes when we want to delve into a topic in depth, and we want to have long presentations, and we want to go back and forth, and they're not televised, and we typically don't have that many people there or participating with us. This is something that's very important in the community. I think it needs to be completely transparent. Need to see what we did, how we've done it, what we're doing, what our considerations are, and so on. And I think the only way we can do that really is at a regularly scheduled meeting. And since we only have one, my suggestion would be that we do it on December 11th.
And I agree. I wanted to go back in the history books to see the last time an appointment was made in this district. It was 1972. Yeah, we just, we usually are sailing on pretty straight waters here, folks, but, we have these things that happen. So I will echo Larry that it needs to be as visible and open a process, and we will go into more detail as to what we're going to involve with that process. That's stuff that we still haven't decided on. But it's, for me, the December 11th meeting feels quite right.
And I agree with both of you.
Aaron, do you have anything to add?
No comment.
Okay. Don, maybe you could explain what mechanically would happen on the 11th, assuming we go down that road.
Yes, I can give options, but we have upcoming items to discuss that might clarify that as we go.
Okay, well then we can, I was just getting to point number 2 on the considerations, the date of a public interview for appointment. So the public interview part is, I thought, maybe something you could highlight so we get a sense, even no matter how we get to the point of doing that.
Sure. Public interview. First of all, a public interview is not required. In fact, no interview is required. It is a best practice to have a public interview process. At that point, moving forward in our process tonight, we need to discuss if you would like to limit the number of candidates, if you would like to interview all candidates. We have a series of items that will require your discussion, but all of the process will take place at the open session of a meeting. Any interview process will take place in full view of the public.
Okay, so I think we now call the question about the date of the meeting for the appointment of the provisional board member.
You got that?
Oh, you
got that? I got that. I make the motion that our appointment date will be at our regular board meeting on December the 11th.
And I second that.
Okay, roll call. Barbara?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Larry? Aye. Aaron?
And I will abstain again.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then the process. Can you guide us a little bit through some suggestions about process?
Yes, this is probably the trickiest part because there are so many options. First, the decision to interview or not interview, and that's probably just a quick discussion item, will not require an action. So if you'd like to discuss that first, we can start at that point.
Any discussion about not wanting to interview?
I think we should interview.
Okay.
Looks like we're going to interview. That's great. The next is, it is not uncommon to require responses to written prompts as part of an application process, but that would come at the direction of the board. If so, the board can decide if you would like to have written responses as part of the application, and then if you would like to create those the prompts, or if you would like to direct staff to create prompts that reflect topics that you would like discussed.
So, point of clarification, I mean, we're going to have some application. The application can be similar to an employment application or some specialized something?
We can create anything we'd like, but typically, and I've looked at several samples, it's a pretty simple application. It'll have a name, address, of course, to make sure that they qualify. If we choose to do written prompts, we'll give clear direction about how those written responses are to be sent back to us, and that's about it. It's typically pretty simple.
You have feelings one way or the other on this?
Actually, I would like some written responses to questions that everyone has to answer the same question. And that way, before you meet the person, because you may not know everyone that you're interviewing, you have some idea about their thoughts on questions that everyone else is answering. I think that would be very helpful. I don't mean 2 pages worth of questions, but, something.
Frankly, I hope we meet some people that I don't know. I mean,
if I can just offer a suggestion, I have sample questions, and districts tend to use questions that are similar, and it would be something along the lines of, tell us why you'd like to be a member of the board, previous involvement in either the school district or the school community, the community that we serve, those types of questions. They're not specific technical questions. Mm-hmm. So if the board would be comfortable, I'd be happy to draft those for consideration.
How mechanically would that work?
Let me
go ahead.
So, I would trust the staff to put together some prompts. I wouldn't want it to be more than maybe a half a dozen. If we can't get a sense of the person in that many questions, then we need to take a look at the questions. I will defer to the staff. My suggestion is let the staff do this, but we're not going to be meeting again until when? Sometime in November. Oh, it's the 12th.
November 12th.
November the 12th. I want to get these things, I want to get it out sooner than that. So could there be a member of the board who will be part of this prompt creation?
Malcolm, throughout this entire process, questions like that, if we would like to have non-quorum representation, that is completely appropriate.
I mean, what did the rest of you think?
Yeah, I'd be happy to review what the staff has done.
And she's got my proxy.
That's fine with me too.
Thank you, Barbara.
But again, we're going to have to craft this as a motion here at some point. So I'm trying to keep some notes here as well.
Okay, so we've said that we're going to have a short written form. We're going to have some questions. suppose we need to work our way backwards, because if we're gonna, I assume we're gonna interview. And I guess, the question is, we typically, when we hire within the district, we go through a screening process where we have, without wondering if I probably can't say this, so I won't. We tend to have some of the same applications for multiple jobs from the same one or two people that are not in our area. Let's just put it that way. So it makes sense that we don't actually bring those couple of people in for interviews. But this is different. So these are all going to be community members. They have to live within the community and so on. Do we want to have some kind of screening process to limit the field? Do we want to have everybody who submits an application be interviewed and considered at the December 11th board meeting?
Can I make a comment about that, Larry?
Please. We're struggling.
Because because I can just tell you from some of the research and background I was trying to find between what's required and what's been done by other districts. I do think it's fairly common to have what I found was it was common to have a non-quorum group, so basically two board members that would do a paper screen, so to speak, going through and then bring forward the top candidates or whatever they determine for the balance of the board for interviews. It's hard to predict your numbers at this point, and that was one method that other districts used.
Right, just to add a piece, if we've now established December 11th as a board meeting, it is a common practice to publish the names of the people who will be interviewed in the board agenda for that meeting. So looking at our calendar and practices, that would mean a December 5th board agenda would have the names of those candidates. Backing up, we do agenda review on the 3rd to finalize items. So really, ideally, we would like to have those names done probably right before our Thanksgiving holiday. So the end of November, that 25th, 26th time would be an appropriate screening window.
So this would be a paper screening only and not interviews, if I understand correctly.
Yes.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
So when we interview administrators or jobs for administrators, we typically have a committee. Typically the board is not even involved. The board's not involved at all until the end. But we're talking about doing this with board members. Will we do this paper screening with one or two board members? We can't have three because it can't be a quorum. Will we do it with administrators? Will we do it with a select group of people? What are our thoughts?
I think
about
it's only with board members,
Right.
if I recall correctly.
Just you're correct, and there are no administrators. I'm not a part of that process at all. So it is your choice, one or two board members, but those are your options.
Okay. All right. So, what is the feeling as far as having?
I'm looking at the November calendar. If you're talking about Thanksgiving, are you talking about Thanksgiving week, the 24th, 25th, or 26th?
Malcolm, that would be a latest. There's no reason that we could not get this process going quickly. The 21st, 22nd, or 20th and 21st, it could be the 21st if we felt that gave us enough time.
If it could be, I would agree to be part of that subcommittee, but it would have to be prior to the Thanksgiving week.
So, you said subcommittee. Let's be clear about the Brown Act with this. You would have to do this as a superintendent's. There's requirements about posting and notices and so on of meetings and agendas, even for subcommittees. If they're of certain types and other types, there's not a requirement. So whatever we decide to do, I want to make sure that it clearly falls within the provisions of the law, and because some subcommittees have to have agendas and notices. But I think a superintendent's appointed one doesn't, but someone's going to need to check that to make sure we do that in the correct fashion.
Well, I would also like to put my name out there because I will not be physically present at the December 11th meeting. I will not be here to interview any of the candidates. I will have to call in, and so I'm going to be a disembodied voice coming from a telephone. So that's the closest I'm going to get to any of the candidates, so I'd like to be part of that.
Okay, then you two want to do it, that's fine. The concern I have is, just express it,
Right.
I'd like to have the broadest potential pool of candidates, and I wouldn't want to artificially limit us. If we have 20 candidates, I wouldn't say we need only the top 3. If we have 17 good candidates, then we ought to have 17 interviews.
Well, I agree with that, too.
Yeah.
If you have 100 candidates, then it becomes a real, physical problem. I would be very surprised if we had 100 candidates, but, you never know. So,
I would
and
be
you
very
have to do
surprised, too.
something. But, yes, I would agree. I think if you see, we should bring forward all the viable candidates.
Okay, so let's recap where we're at this point and maybe vote on it so we make sure that there's clear direction to the staff and how we're proceeding. And then we can come up with a date. I think we need to come up with a date, probably is maybe the last thing. Okay, so we're going to do an interview. We're going to do a packet. It's going to have some questions. Staff is going to develop the questions. Barbara's going to be the one assisting in the review of the development of the questions and providing input on behalf of the board. We're going to pick a date that we're going to put these out. We're going to put a date when they're due back, and then give us time for paper screening. And then the screening is going to be done by Barbara and Malcolm.
Could I interrupt? In my thought, I don't want to speak for Tony. I think Barbara, because of her history with the district and everything, should be part of this. Because of her virtual presence on the 11th, absolutely should be part of this. I don't want to assume that Tony Coladas doesn't want to be part of this process. So if we could frame it as, I'd gladly be a placeholder if he's not available, but given, he still has kids in the district and may know, different sectors that I'm not familiar with. So how do you want to do that?
Don, do you have a concern that, first of all, you're going to have to make sure we've put it in the right format?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a concern not knowing the second member, but knowing it's either going to be Malcolm or Tony?
No.
Thank you.
All right. I think I've summarized everything. Did I miss anything?
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Is with the group of Barbara and either Tony or Malcolm, whatever 2 board members, they're going to work with staff to construct the written questions as well as the interview questions?
Well, it's just the written questions with the application, basically. That's all they're going to paper screen.
Yeah.
So you're going to have name, rank, serial number, experience, and some answers to some questions.
So the discussion that you were having about having common questions for everyone, that was strictly about the written application.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So, that's an excellent point. We've gone through this process now with administrators. When we get to the actual interview process, I think we need to also have a set of questions that everyone is asked the same thing, whatever they are.
Right.
Okay, and that's potentially a second set of questions. You want to work on the second set of questions as well?
Do you want me to do that? I'm not even going to be here.
Okay,
They're going to be your questions.
I'll take that. So for the actual interviews, I'll work with the staff on developing the questions, and I'm not even going to talk to you about it until we see the application, the form, and all that stuff. Is there anything else we're missing other than just the dates?
Well, we haven't decided when we're going to post.
So that's the date. So let's take a motion first on all the stuff I just said to make sure we're on the right pages, who's doing what, when they're doing, and so
Let me
on.
ask this young lady over here, did you get all that?
Okay. And you
So
got the
can the
tape,
motion
and I
be-
talked slowly.
Yeah, can the motion then be?
I'll make the motion, because I said
Okay,
all this stuff.
fire away.
So just what I said. I mean, I don't want to go back and repeat it again. So, all right, so is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any question about the motion?
Any question out there in the audience about the motion?
Okay. Okay, then roll call. Barbara?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Larry? Aye.
And I will
Aaron?
abstain.
Abstains, okay. All right, so I think we've basically set up, now we need to have the dates.
Yes.
Okay,
I can suggest a couple things, if that's okay.
please. You're
Okay.
going to have to do most of the work.
Okay, good. So, we need to prepare the packets. Barbara and I will need to get together and prepare the packets, and then line up our advertising so that it's quick and we can get that advertised out. That can be district websites, that could be our social media push, but it will also be newspapers and such as well.
Do me a favor when you do that, make sure it gets out at the school, like PTAs and stuff like that, because a lot of people, the website,
We can do that.
sorry, Trent, but last time I tried to use, I couldn't find what I was looking for, so, I mean, it'd be nice if you...
We can do that. We'll make it prominent. I would suggest that, Barbara, if your calendar allows for a Monday or Tuesday meeting, it will not take long for us to put together the packet.
How about tomorrow afternoon?
Tomorrow afternoon's great. We can do that. So if we did that, I would say the 4th or the 5th, Tuesday or Wednesday, would be pretty good suggestions.
So Wednesday, November 5th?
Wednesday is the 5th, yes.
Well, if it can be done Tuesday, I'm not sure what the cycle is with the PV News and the Daily Breeze, but
If we're meeting tomorrow, Tuesday's fine.
Yeah.
I would not want to press from Monday,
Right.
but Tuesday's fine.
yeah.
Yeah. By Tuesday at the close of business, you'll hit PV News calendar timeline.
Great.
I'd ask Mary if she's here, but I don't see her. Okay, so let's shoot for Tuesday, November 4th to advertise it and have the application ready.
And where would people pick up the application?
We can have it available.
It should be online.
I'm looking to Jana, so it would typically be the enrollment center. I'll tell you what, we can easily have it available at both places, the enrollment center with Jana and the superintendent's office with Rita, and we'll have it available PDF version to download on our website, so there'll be multiple places.
I know they've changed their entryway, but in the past, when we've wanted to distribute hard copies of things, we've put them in the foyer of the main library. Now, they've changed the foyer. I'm not sure where they now have, like, voters' guides and things like that, but especially for, as a central location, people that live on the east side, the main library. So I don't know whether a call to Kathy Gould maybe is just another distribution point.
Well, it's kind of complicating everything because when there's an election, the library makes themselves
Yeah.
available for materials
Right.
to be put out on a table.
Right.
If you go into the main library, they have sections where people just put things in slots.
Right, but
And-
they've changed that. That whole foyer has been redesigned. I'm just there, again, I want to err on the side.
I understand. We just don't know.
Short of
Larry,
dropping from an
what do you know
airplane.
about the layout of the library based upon Debbie's experience as
I
being
know where
on
the pictures are.
Okay.
That's about
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's,
Just a thought.
And they
you know.
took them down recently for the holiday party. I heard about that, too.
okay.
By and large, people may just want to download a PDF and
Well,
save the gas.
do me a favor, just make it available at every school office, too. I mean, you can send a PDF to every to every principal, and they can have it available.
Absolutely.
Just any
Okay,
way we
that's
can do it.
easier.
Okay. Okay, so we'll try to shoot to have it out November 4th. What do we want as the day back to give you time to end up with a no later than 11:25 finish to the paper screening?
Closing date, especially if we're starting that Tuesday and the word's going to get out. We could go the 19th, 20th, or 21st. That's a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday.
If you can live with Friday the 21st, that gives you the most time, the most flexibility, but that doesn't give you a lot of time to do your screening.
Well, the screening's a process with the 2 board members, so it'll just
Well,
be up
okay,
to
maybe I asked the question wrong, or I'm confused about what you're telling me, which is entirely possible. We're going to have the materials available on November 4th. What day are we going to have them returned to us by?
I'm sorry.
Friday the 21st?
That's what I was speaking to, yes, the
Okay,
19th,
and so-
20th, or 21st, or 21st.
And so then you have till the 25th, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of Thanksgiving week to do the screening?
I'm not doing the screening, so that would be
You
Barbara.
got 3 days to do the screening on Thanksgiving week? I'm glad I'm not on this group.
If that's the case, then I'm not going to be available. I'm going to be in town, but my body most likely is going to be up at the jury room of the Inglewood Courthouse, doing my civic duty. And no one knows, I can't
No one knows if
predict.
you're going to be called, yeah.
Who knows? Why they want me Thanksgiving week, I don't know. I default to the law enforcement that
All right,
maybe
so
that's a big
let's just,
week.
I'll make a command decision. How about Tuesday, November 18th? That's 2 weeks from Tuesday, November 4th. We're not going to make that big a packet. Should be fairly simple to do. It's 2 weeks to get it out, advertise, get it back. Does that seem reasonable?
Absolutely.
Reasonable? That way you have flexibility, Tony has
Right.
flexibility, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'll make a motion that we have the application out by Tuesday, November 4th, and make the return date due by Tuesday, close of business, November 18th.
And I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Yeah. Just to add on with wide distribution.
Wide distribution. Okay. Barbara, roll call.
Oh, aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Larry, aye. Aaron?
Abstain.
Okay. This has been really lengthy. Is there anything else that I've forgotten?
I'm just glancing through my notes.
Is there anything I wasn't clear about, Jana, that, okay.
I believe we've covered
The only
everything.
thing that you may want to, just so everybody is aware of it, that that once that decision is made, excuse me, there is a process where that then has to be announced to the community, and notice is given to the community about the appointment, so that it's known, and that there's certain steps in there that should people not be happy with that decision, there's different steps that they could go through, and they're more than happy to look at the board bylaws to understand that if they want.
Okay. I now understand what you're saying. I lost her too for a second, but what she's saying is that there's a right under our board bylaws or the California state law, I don't know which.
It's California law.
California law,
Yes.
that if the public doesn't like the decision we made and the process we're doing, you have a right to try to gather signatures and force a special election. I don't have the specifics of it.
That can only happen after the appointment's made.
Okay, so we'll make sure that when we get to that point, that we have all that.
There is a window.
Make sure we have all that information so that there's nothing that's not clear to everybody. That's your point, right, Aaron?
That's my point, correct.
All right, good. Okay, anything else? Okay. All right, then we will move on to facilities and maintenance program.
Tonight, for your information, is the Facility Constructions Program status report, and if you have any questions, I would be happy to address them.
Desiree Myers has a question.
Minute too late on the last one. I guess the elephant in the room was, Ms. Lamont, your husband moved to Texas 2 years ago. I'm wondering why you waited to the last moment, forcing us into a position where we would have to pay for a special election when, for only $250,000, we could have made it part of this election.
Ms. Myers, that's not on the agenda. I mean, that's a non-agendized item, or should have been part of the last discussion. It's not anything to do with facilities or M1.
I didn't know how to fit it in. And then you asked for cards, and I didn't. I thought it was too late.
Okay.
But that's the concern that people have, is we're looking for diverse thought here. We've got an entire board that only believes in Common Core, won't even look at the questions behind it. And then you're talking about appointing somebody. We're looking for somebody who's going to ask the right questions, be part of that, and this election would have allowed us this.
I would suggest that they apply. I would suggest those people apply and be interviewed in public.
Mr. Sharp, I don't
Okay,
think they'll
so-
be appointed by you.
Okay, so,
It wouldn't have your support.
okay, so we're off the agenda item. Your point was taken and heard, and we,
I
okay,
take very offense. You don't know me from Adam's house cat.
okay. All right.
Thank you.
No,
I'm not a dog, and that was offensive. Okay.
all right. Back to facilities. Sorry. Did you have anything? It's a report. Did you have anything to add?
It's for information purposes only. If you have any questions, I will address them.
Anybody have any questions? No. Okay. Okay, so now we go to the consent calendar, and I'm going to pull N2. Any other board member? I'll go. Aaron, do you have anything you want pulled on the consent calendar?
I do not.
Barbara?
Nothing.
Malcolm?
Nothing.
Okay, and then the staff doesn't have anything, right? Okay, so can I have a motion to approve items N1, N3 through N13?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call, Barbara?
Aye.
Malcolm? Aye. Larry, aye. Aaron?
Aye.
Okay, and Tony is absent. All right. So we're going to go to N2, which is the interim agreement with California State Dominguez Hills. Do you want to have a presentation, or is there anything you want to have the staff add before you come up, or do you just want to say what you want to say? I mean, there might be something that staff could add to this, unless, if you had any question, but otherwise, why don't you come up and... Normally consent items, they don't make a presentation, but I thought if there's a question or something. they
Okay.
might.
My concern is, what are we using the interns for? What we've been using them before is the psychological testing, further exposing our children's private information and feelings and personality traits to people that are only interns and not licensed. And that continues to be a concern.
Okay, can staff answer that? Because I think fairly certain that's not right, actually. I don't think we have interns from Cal State Dominguez Hills in the psychology part. I know we've had ones from LMU, we've had some Riverside. I don't think this is Dominguez. I don't think that's part of this, but maybe, John, you can answer that if you... I mean, I understand what your question is, but I'm not sure it applies to
Yeah, I know
this
the
one.
Riverside ones, in fact, were the interns doing this with our children. And yes, I'm interested, we're using ones from elsewhere doing it too. And what the extent of the exposure of this data is with people that are unqualified and just learning.
Sure. These are, this is an intern agreement for a teacher position. We also have agreements with Cal Poly Pomona, Cal State Long Beach, Grand Canyon University, Loma Linda, National, Stanbridge College, University of Phoenix, University of Redlands, University of Washington, USC, and Western Kentucky University. So we enter into intern agreements and student teaching agreements with these different colleges and universities to provide people pursuing their teaching degrees the opportunity to student teach, or in this case, people who are in intern programs to teach at the same time they are completing their degree program. So this is,
This is different. This is different than the.
Yeah,
than
this
the
is different than
This
the
is not the
psychologist.
psychological
No, this is
testing.
not for psychologists or psychologist testing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Buzz.
You're welcome.
Second question: Are these teachers in training sitting in front of the pupils taking this over? Or do they have a licensed, qualified person behind them?
Yeah, there's oversight by both the university and mentor teacher
In the in the
school
classroom
district.
itself.
No, they're in their own classroom in the district intern program.
Okay, so do the parents know that they have an unlicensed teacher teaching their children?
So you can direct the question to me, and I will.
Thank you, Mr. Van der
Okay,
Bos.
and I will ask staff to get. You've got the question about how they're supervised. Can you prepare something for me that I can forward to Desiree?
Sure thing.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Thanks. Any additional discussion? Okay. So I pulled it, so I move approval.
I'll second.
A roll call. Barbara?
Aye.
Malcolm? Aye. Larry? Aye. Aaron?
Aye.
All right, so we have 01 and 02 are information items. Did anyone have any questions? Okay.
No.
So, all right, so we'll go to report of board members. So, Aaron, you want to go first?
Yes, I do. Really, the only thing I have to report was I just wanted to mention that I attended the Chamber of Commerce dinner in October 10th, honoring our PTA Council as Organization of the Year, and it was really, really nice to see so many people there honoring our very, very important PTA Council. And then the other fun thing I got to do was attend, well, I tried to attend Ridgecrest pumpkin throwing contest on trebuchets that were built and designed by the students. Mr. Kuykendall and I got our schedules crossed a little bit, so I got to watch a video of the activities because I had missed it by an hour. But anyway, it was really, really a fun activity, and I was pleased to be able to represent the board for that.
So did you miss the activity because you got the time wrong, or did Mr. Kuykendall give you some bad information because he's sitting right here and he has to take it if you say it's his mistake?
Let's just say we had crossed wires and leave it at that. How about
that? All right. Thanks. Sorry, it was just too easy. Barbara?
Okay, I'm going to be reporting on SoCal ROC, and you will be happy to know that we had our first budget subcommittee meeting made up of 3 board members like me from SoCal ROC, the superintendent of SoCal ROC, the deputy superintendent, and then a representative from each of the 6 JPA districts. The purpose of the meeting was to basically initially review funding for the organization, and then to look at possible scenarios for future funding, because the state of California has, we've been told by the Department of Finances, they've just decided to do away with the whole ROCP program, period. It's dead. They don't want to hear about it again, and, let's just move on. Well, the problem is we're not a program, we're a center. So we have land, property, equipment, and we have teachers out at our school sites teaching career technical education. And it's a very, it's really a fabulous little program. And this is the booklet that we were all given. Dr. Austin has one, and then Lydia was there with me, and she's got one. It's everything you would ever want to know and more about how we fund it, the classes we have, this, that, and the other. So what we had done at SoCal ROC, we'd come up with 4 possible scenarios for future funding. Actually, the last one was just go the 3rd year with using reserves and then shut the place down. That's the worst case scenario. We had some other scenarios. The most interesting one, the bottom line was the 6 JPA districts all said they wanted to keep the program as it is at the center and with the teachers out at the school sites. That's the goal. Whether we're going to get there.
That's the good news and the easy part.
That's the easy part. We all agree on the easy part, The hard part's going to be the funding, because the state isn't going to fund it like it did before. It used to be a separate line item in the budget, and through the magic of what they do in Sacramento, they just didn't put it in the budget. No discussion, no nothing. It just ceased to exist. So anyway, we are on a 2-year maintenance of effort legislation from the, passed by the legislature, approved by the governor, and it's going to run out in July of 2015. We have about $3 million in reserve, so we're looking to see if we can come up with some sort of a way to keep the center going and also provide the teachers out at the school sites. So there were two very popular ideas. The first one would be that each JPA district, and remember, we're one of the 6 JPA districts, would pass through 50% of their 2.6% augmentation grant for career technical education, which is going to be coming through. I don't know if it's come through yet, and it may not come through at 100% because, you know, they're playing some more games in Sacramento. But anyway, 50% of that, and we could keep the center going. But then after everyone said, no, we want the center to keep going, and we want the teachers out at the school sites, El Segundo came up with their own version. And Lydia was there and heard the whole thing, and basically they said pass through all of the career technical education monies because that's what SoCal ROC is doing. And, you know, we could run a modified program at the center and still keep the teachers coming out to the school sites. So this is just the first preliminary meeting. We're going to have another meeting probably within the next 2 weeks to get more into all the information. And if any of you are dying to see all that, this is the binder. And I also encourage you just to go out there and see some of those classes because it's pretty impressive what they're doing out there for the kids. So anyway, the first meeting was very pleasant. Everyone got along. There was no yelling or shouting. And everyone seemed to want to keep the place going. So we're going to have another meeting in 2 weeks, and I'll just let you know what happens after that one. Oh, and by the way, I don't know, Don, if you've been told, you're not president and you're not vice president of the group, but you're the clerk. So, and that's because he wasn't there.
Let's call that a promotion.
Yeah, that's a promotion for you. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
At some point, is this going to come back to the 6 boards?
Yes,
for,
yes. What we're going,
action item?
Yeah, what I'm planning on doing is if I can get the superintendent from SoCal ROC to come down, we'll do a presentation, I think November 11th. We'll go through the details with you. I mean, you're not going to want to read all this, but we can.
12th.
Is that the 12th?
Yeah. 11th.
Wait,
Veterans.
November.
November 12th is our meeting.
Okay.
It's a Wednesday.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will be here, and we'll be prepared for you to ask all the questions. And you don't have to make a decision at that particular time, but it's just to keep you informed of what the finances are and how precarious it really is. And
But the way your process works, will the SoCal ROC board come up with a recommendation that then they will take back to their respective boards?
Right. This group is made up of members from the SoCal ROC board plus members of each of the 6 JPA districts. So this committee is going to come up with a recommendation, and we will bring it back to each individual school board.
Okay, so does majority rule? On, let's say, of the 6, it's split 3 and 3. 3 boards say, let's go for it, but 3 boards say, no way. Then what do we do?
Well, that's another part of the discussion. There are some other options and things we could do. In fact, there may very well be, as I'm reading the tea leaves, I'm sensing there may be 2 that may pull out. But that's just reading the tea leaves, and who knows? Because up front, they're all saying, we want to stay, we want to keep it going, we like what we're getting, we don't want to change anything. Of course, we don't have the money flowing from Sacramento. That's the rub. So we'll get there. But all of the districts expressed a wish to have a decision from this group prior to January, because we're going to be, in January, we're going to be waiting for the governor's budget, and then we're going to be starting our own budget process, and they wanted it to be part of their own budget process. So whenever we get to that decision, we'll let you know. I'm going to keep you informed. I always do as we move along with this stuff. But it may be, some may drop out. We may be able to get others to come in. So that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you.
Can I just make a point real quick that we all may just want to be aware of? We do have a very specific board bylaw that that specifies how to handle issues surrounding SoCal Rock, and that's Board Bylaw 9140. And so I would just urge everybody to pay attention to that, because it clearly says that things like major budget concepts, long-range planning, major capital improvements are things that should be brought back to the entire PVPUSD board for discussion. So, and it can either be done on consensus or a vote. But I think we just need to pay attention to that, we may very well need to be agendizing this topic on upcoming meetings.
Oh, it's going to be definitely agendized for a meeting. It's not going to be a superintendent's report. This is going to be agendized for discussion, and then at some point, the board will have to take an action, and then it will be agendized for action here, as it will be at all the other 5 school districts. This is an individual decision per school district. All this committee is doing is an advisory. We're just acting in an advisory capacity. The final decision is made by each individual school board.
Okay.
Thank you. Malcolm?
Okay, yeah, I want to give a report on the projects that Walker have been working on. Again, unfortunately, actually, a bulk of his time has been spent on the public records requests. He is working. We've had some criticism from some speakers tonight about requests for information. Those requests have come as public records requests from several people that trying to get that information and get it back to people in a timely manner. So he does spend quite a bit of time on that, and he's not the only staff member that has been working on those. He has been spending time issues dealing with some HR issues that were holdovers from when he was superintendent. Issues like that have to do with employee matters that we've discussed in closed session. And he by and large, he is up in his office and working very hard, and we're getting the bang for the buck. So I meet with him regularly, and we'll continue to do so and make these periodic reports to the board. So that's all on that topic.
Technology or?
Technology Advisory Committee, I reported that the last time.
We haven't had anything since.
Yeah. We're going to hopefully be setting a time to talk about infrastructure, which was a topic that came up at our last meeting, our last committee meeting.
Aaron, do you have anything on the school facilities board subcommittee?
We have not met. However, I do believe that it's really time that we ask for a staff report on how things are going since we did our rollout of some significant changes July 1st. So if that's all right, I'll ask the superintendent to work with staff to figure out when the appropriate time would be for them to come back and report back to the board.
Makes sense. Fine with Don. Lydia's shaking her head excitedly.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the Facilities Needs Assessment Board Subcommittee, we'll probably have to have our first meeting soon. I've been avoiding it as long as possible. Yeah, Lydia's excited about that too. Okay, I don't have anything to report other than I had a question from the public about any private communications I've gotten about privacy concerns, and I haven't gotten any communications. If I had, I would share them. And at 10:59 in Frisco, Texas, and 8:59 in Palos Verdes, this meeting is adjourned.